It's a real shame that this beautiful natural grove has been destroyed. That cannot be repaired.
Hamas is threatening to bring down the walls of the Gaza Strip today, and protesters have prepared more than 1,500 kites to light on fire and to launch over the security fence towards Israeli towns. Thanks for tuning in on your daily dose. These are live images now of the situation at the early hours of the afternoon as the protests start to heat up. Protesters have been rioting along the border fence every Friday. This one could be one of the biggest yet. It is Quds Day, the Iranian-led international initiative to protest Israel. Also, Nakba Day protests that were supposed to take place earlier in the week to commemorate the six-day war defeat were postponed until today. Hamas says together they're hoping for 40,000 demonstrators along the fence. The IDF is on high alert. With me in studio, I have our senior defense correspondent, Shai Ben-Ari. I also have IDF Reserves Colonel Olivier Rafovich. Thank you both for being with us. But first, let's start with Daniel Tsemach, who is live for us at the Israel-Gaza border right now. Daniel, give us a sense. What's the situation, the atmosphere around you now? And are we already seeing some of these kites overhead?
Yes, Jeff. Well, we arrived here just a little over an hour ago, and there were only a couple dozen protesters on the other side starting to arrive at one of the main focal points of these protests, which is in the northern Gaza Strip. Now, as you can see, our cameraman Liran will show you there are more people starting to arrive. We estimate around at least 100. They also started to burn tires there, as we can see the plumes of smoke. Also, hundreds of snipers are deployed along the border here with Israel, Gaza border, and we can see those snipers' nests along the border, as well as tanks and armored personnel carriers here on site. As you mentioned, it's expected to be a very large demonstration today, one maybe similar to what we saw a few weeks ago on May 14th, that being the day before the Nakba Day, that is the Palestinian Catastrophe Day commemorating Israeli Independence Day. That was the largest we have seen in the past over 2 months now, with some 60 Palestinians that were killed. So the IDF is bracing for a similar sort of protest today. Massive IDF presence, but not only IDF presence, also fire extinguishing brigades are on site here, as well as use of drones, which will be used to deal with those incendiary kites that you mentioned, something that's already destroyed well over 4,000 acres of land thus far. So it'll be a very active day here, and it's starting to begin right now, Jeff.
Daniel, is the IDF prepared? Are these drones effective if more than 1,000 kites are launched today?
According to their estimates, it's well over a 50% success rate. But we've actually been covering these fires for a few weeks now, and we've spoken to those fire extinguishing brigades and firemen and women. And I've heard from some that have said that while the drone might be able to shoot these kites out of the air, sometimes that kite will just fall to the ground and actually start a fire. The flammable liquids that are tied to the end of them with the tail, sometimes are also hot air balloons or balloons rather, that have also flammable materials inside that drip to the ground. So the second it impacts the ground, that fire can still start, and the concerns are that with these inward winds, these inland winds, and the heat of the summer, this could actually get worse. Today, as you mentioned, thousands upon thousands of kites were being prepared. We'll have to see how the IDF and these fire extinguishing brigades deal with those threats.
All right, Daniel Tsemach reporting.